Hi everybody, this is Dino Chris from Prehistoric Facts, and this is the final special episode of Prehistoric Facts Week here on Friday, December 6th. In this episode, we'll be talking about Titanosaurus. And so let's just get started, shall we? Titanosaurus is basically it is actually 50 plus feet long and probably weighed more than 15 tons. So this is actually and what Titanosaurus is actually it's a sauropod or a long-necked dinosaur, and they actually roamed around the Cretaceous period, and which is kind of odd to actually think of when sauropods lived in like the later Cretaceous period. From the facts that I've been seeing out of like numerous articles, it seems like that Titanosaurus has been roaming around the planet from 80 to 65 million years ago. Now, I really don't know about that. You see, I always kind of speculate like the times of some of these finds of like some of these fossils that they find of some certain species of animal. But the fossils have been found in Asia, Europe, and Africa. So this is almost a wide-ranging dinosaur. So this is actually an animal that actually pretty much migrated in herds, and this animal would be too tough for predators to actually take down. Excuse me, because of its size. The size of Titanosaurus is actually its number one weapon, and is that you can get big you can get really big to actually make sure that you don't have to be prey for some predators. Because when you're that big, you're not going to have that many predators to attack you. And of course, the juveniles are always vulnerable. It's because they're smaller, and also they're an easier target for predators to actually attack. So probably a Titanosaurus was probably like maybe the size of, say, like a hippo. It would actually be very vulnerable to many predators. And like the Tyrannosaurus, they would have been around 80 to 65 million years ago. It's because basically when the Tyrannosaurus actually hunted these kinds of dinosaurs as juveniles, and especially a Titanosaurus the size of a hippo, it would actually be so easy for the Tyrannosaurus to actually take a good bite at the neck and then just kill it easily. But when you actually look at the cross sections of the bones of some of these sauropods, you actually see there's like numerous growth rings, and so like counting the rings on a tree. So they're actually very useful to determine how old this dinosaur was when it died. And there are some dinosaurs that actually kind of have those growth rings on some particular bones. But with sauropods, their bones are hollow, so it's going to be very difficult to actually try to find an area where they can actually cut through the bone and actually kind of make a small sample to actually get a cross section of the bone to actually look under a microscope. And so it's actually going to be very difficult for paleontologists to actually find a good spot, but probably mainly like at the ends of the ribs, or otherwise some parts of the probably like some toe bones. I mean, you can actually probably use that as to find out like how old this dinosaur was. But when you look at the juvenile stage, there's numerous holes in the bone, showing there's like a lot of blood vessels are actually around the bone, suggesting that this dinosaur is actually using a lot of blood to grow really fast. And when you're a herbivore, you need to grow fast in order to actually not get eaten, because if you grow slow, then you get eaten. And so that's always a key thing for herbivores. They need to get big as quickly as possible, and also they need to make sure that they don't get eaten by predators. But with sauropods, since they do nest in like kind of like a group setting, you need to find numerous nest sites around one particular area, like in El Camuevo, where they found like numerous clusters of eggs of Argentinosaurus that were just scattered everywhere, and it was just, and it's an amazing sight. I've never been there, but even though I've seen pictures, I've seen videotapes of the site, and you can actually see some of the eggshells that are on the ground. And it was Dr. Rodolfo Coria, if I could get his name pronounced properly, Rodolfo Coria. He actually is the one that actually knows the Alcomahuevo site, and you might actually find probably like a few articles about his work, and he actually has more information than what I have about the Argentinosaurus nest sites in Alcomahuevo. But when we actually look at Titanosaurus would actually, because since Titanosaurus and Argentinosaurus are close relatives, but when you look at the evolution of the sauropods, the long-necked dinosaurs, you actually see they actually are pretty dominant in the Jurassic. That was when they were most dominant. That way, you would find fossils of them almost everywhere because they're just so dominant in every continent on the planet. But then when you get to the Cretaceous, you actually see diminishing numbers in sauropods. It's because other new plant eaters are actually coming in that actually taking those places. And what we see is that you start to see the iguanodonts coming about. You start to see the hadrosaurs coming about. You see the ceratopsians coming about. You see the ankylosaurs coming about. I mean, you see numerous herbivorous dinosaurs coming in, and also the predators are getting smarter though too. So it's also very interesting when you actually look at that. The hadrosaurs are actually one of the most intelligent plant-eating dinosaurs during their time, and also you actually look at the predators during that time too. You actually see that the predators are getting smarter, like the Dromaeosaurus, or is nicknamed the raptors, and also you actually see the Tyrannosaurus coming about, and they're one of the smartest big carnivorous dinosaurs that are actually known. And so when Titanosaurus was around, it was pretty much like you would actually find rare traces of them. You would actually find like very rare trackways. You would actually find rare egg sites. And also you would actually find rare fossilized bones of these animals because they're very rare in the Cretaceous. Is that what? Because you would always find duck-billed dinosaurs, tyrannosaurs, ceratopsians, those kinds of dinosaurs in that particular time. And what Titanosaurus would actually feed on are pretty much the low branching shrubs that are in between the trees, and also they would probably eat like the leaves of the smaller trees. They do not raise their necks up, and the reason why is because their bones are not the vertebrae, the neck bones don't even have any curvature. That's why when you actually see old illustrations of sauropods, you actually see that having their necks up like this, because it's because people like to see these dinosaurs actually have their necks go up in the air. But as we actually progress through time, you actually see that their necks are more horizontal. So it's because the lining of the neck vertebrae and also the backbone supports that these dinosaurs did not actually raise their necks up very high. The only way that they can actually raise their necks up high is if they were standing on their hind legs to actually get to the tree, to actually get to the softest leaves of the tree. And that's probably what it would have done to actually get the leaves out of the tree. So it would not need to actually try to raise its head up so high, like 3 stories high, in order to actually try to get the branches of the tallest trees. And pretty much that with with the neck vertebrae is since that they're very hollow, they're a little bit more lighter weight than we actually thought they were, and considering that they actually do have the hollow bones, but their muscles are always going to be the consideration, because muscle is heavier than their muscles are heavier than their bones. So the muscles would have been huge in sauropods. So these sauropods would have tremendous muscle mass and muscle power. So it would have been unthinkable of what their strength would have been. And since their brains are very small, their brains are very, very small. They're like one of the smallest brains compared to body size out of any kinds of dinosaurs. Sauropods have like the smallest brain out of any dinosaurs. And the reason why is because, you see, plant eaters don't need to be very smart in order to actually think about what they're doing. Because, you see, with the brain of sauropods, you actually see that the part of the brain that is actually devoted to like strategy and thinking is not very well developed. So they're actually like they're just only like using their instinct to actually know what they have to do. Like this, like one thing they actually go, okay, let's find food. And then the next thing is to like, okay, let's lay eggs. And then the next thing will be, okay, let's start mating. Or otherwise it'll be like, okay, back to food, And otherwise it's time to find water, that kind of ordeal. That's how they probably actually go about their business. And they probably don't have the brain capacity to know where their head is and where their tail is. So it's pretty much how their brains would have worked. And even though I think they do have a commutive strategy, which means they actually have strategy within a group, and that's pretty much how they actually use their social behavior. They do have a complex social behavior, which is pretty understandable considering that dinosaurs are closely related to birds, and birds are very social animals. And for the sauropods, they actually tend to pretty much think like a group. So whenever there's a predator, they usually just try to huddle up the younger ones inside and actually have the predators try to go through the big adults that are really too hard to actually take down. So, like, say if there was like a Tyrannosaur and trying to get to one of the young Titanosaurs, then you actually see the adults actually just surrounding the smaller, or otherwise the juveniles into the middle of the pack. So then that way, that the juveniles are safe. But as for their social behavior for their young is always up for debate. There's debate, like there's one side is actually saying that sauropods didn't have the brain capacity to actually care for their young, so they actually just laid their eggs and then moved on and let their young actually try to seek refuge in the deep wood, in the deep forest, to actually keep them away from predators and also try to avoid predators when they're heading into the forest. Or otherwise, there's like the other side is that they did have the commuter strategy to actually like watch for their eggs and care for the young that is actually hatching out of the egg, but the young are pretty much just going to have to depend on getting food on their own, and that's pretty much how they're actually going to try to get food. But as for the extinction for Titanosaurus, from what I've seen out of, if it's true, if they actually did live in 65 million years ago, they would have actually been around. They would have actually seen the extinction caused by the asteroid impact hitting the Gulf of Mexico and pretty much ending the reign of dinosaurs, causing dramatic climate changes, and also and having this whole amount of events that would have actually occurred after the impact. And that And that would have just ended everything for the Titanosaurs. When the plants are gone, then there's nothing else you can do but try to like either starve to death, or you can either just try to find something else to eat, or otherwise you die. And that was pretty much how they actually ended up extinct, is that they couldn't actually withstand the events from the asteroid impact, and so they pretty much ended very, very quickly, whereas the carnivores actually survived a little bit longer, but also their size actually took a toll on them. It's because when you're that big, you're the first ones to fall, and so that's pretty much what happened with them. And, alright, that's it for now. Now tomorrow will be the final episode for Prehistoric Facts Week, and it will be an answering questions episode, so hopefully I could get some more questions by either emailing me at dinocris71@gmail.com, or otherwise you can actually post questions on on Facebook, excuse me, on the Facebook fan page, Prehistoric Facts with Dino Chris. Post the questions on there, and I'll actually answer them from the Facebook page and put them on video, and I'll actually answer it on video. And also you can follow me on Twitter at CSGRAL, @CSGRALL, low caps. And then, because I always post stuff on there, and you can always keep on following me on there. And also just find the Facebook fan page, like it, and I also post some pretty cool stuff on there. So hopefully that can actually help you guys out and actually keep in contact with me, and hopefully that your questions can get answered, and also you can actually keep in track of my episodes. Alright, and make sure to take care of the people around you, and also for younger people out there, make sure to listen to your parents, your teachers, and your guardians. Those are the best motivation that you can get for a good education. It's very important to have a good education, and so that you can have a good job in the future. Alright, that's it for now, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.